welcome you to the debate tonight. Being a resident of Piscataway all my life, my name is Dave Montesano. I'm the Piscataway Republican Chair. It's only being a Republican in Piscataway, but we're just a few and feisty ones. My thing before any election is not to judge anybody by their party, but by judging them by the solutions and what they're really offering. So that's the whole idea of this forum and this debate tonight. I want to thank Senator Smith for accepting the challenge. And we have the challenger, Daryl Kipnis from Franklin Township. Thank you, sir. So folks, I had you guys put questions in the box. So this way it's questions directly from you folks. And you don't have to stand up and stand out in the crowd. A lot of people don't like that. So on that, I want to introduce you to PJ Parker from the Franklin Reporter. She's decided to be our moderator tonight. I'm very happy she decided to do this. Thank you, PJ.
Well, thank you, Damon, and thank you, Senator Smith, and thank you, Mr. Kipnis, for joining us tonight so that we can inform the citizens of Somerset County and the Legislative District number 17 about the issues that are important to all of us. Just a couple of quick notes as to the format that we'll be utilizing this evening. Format where each round of questions will be initiated by me, and they will be taken from this nifty little box, where I hope all of you have put in at least a question. Was there somebody had something to mention there? Okay. The questions will be coming from this box, and the order of the questions will be determined by a coin toss. There will be no opening statements. The coin toss winner, and in deference to the incumbency of Senator Smith, he will get to choose whether he prefers heads or tails. And the winner of that head or tail toss will get to decide that question number 1 will be answered by him first, or he will defer to his challenger, or vice versa. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question, after which there will be an optional 30-second rebuttal by the opponent. There will be no rebuttals to the rebuttals. So once the question has been rebutted, okay. The audience has been instructed to print questions legibly on the supplied index cards. Now, I will be going in here and pulling them out, if I can get my hand in here. And if I find a question that for reasons of illegibility, I cannot read it, I will be putting it aside. It has nothing to do with my acceptance or rejection of the question, but in my inability to understand what the question is as it is written. So just so that you know that. What else? The questions will be drawn at random by me, the moderator, and at the conclusion of the question and answer period, each candidate will have the option to ask the opposite candidate a question of his own. Again, the winner of the coin toss will have the option to decide to answer the question first or defer it to his opponent. There will, at the end of that question of each of the candidates, be a 2-minute closing statement by both candidates, and there will be no rebuttals to those questions. Are there any other questions that we have not addressed? Okay, so let the questioning begin. I'm going to put the microphone down. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, we have to toss the little toy. Hold on, 1 second. Now, I am renowned for tossing things and having them fall places, so please bear with me. Okay. And Senator Smith, in deference to you, do you wish heads or tails?
Heads.
Heads. And it is a head. So you do have the option to accept the answer to the first question first, or you may defer to Mr. Kipnis.
You have to take the question.
Okay. Okay, now this question happens to be addressed to Mr. Kipnis, so I'm going to hold that aside. Okay, the question that is number 1, what is your stand on sanctuary statehood?
Well, I
I've taken the position that the issue is a significant issue that has to be addressed on a statewide basis. My choice and the person I'm supporting for governor is Phil Murphy. Phil Murphy's indicated that whatever our state needs to do in order to protect dreamers and people similar to dreamers, that he as governor will be leading that charge. And I, hopefully, if I'm reelected, will be happy to support him in that, because I think the issues are real. I think that the current administration in Washington has decided to punish as many people who do not look like them as possible. And part of that strategy is walls, embargoes, punishment, just a whole bunch of activities that are outrageous and, in my belief, illegal. And as a matter of fact, a federal judge has indicated that many of them are.
I believe time has been
I
called.
think that answers it.
Thank you, Senator Smith. If you could just hold your microphone a little closer for your next question. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, Mr. Kipnis, your response.
Yes, as an attorney in private practice, one of the things that I do is help immigrants immigrate here and help people bring members of their families over. I vocally voiced my disagreement with President Trump's rescission of the DACA policy without a clear-cut replacement ready to go in Congress. And people will find out very quickly how powerfully I will advocate for things that people in the district are passionate about. And I will lobby Congress daily to make sure that protections get passed to restore DACA, and I will also advocate for comprehensive immigration reform. It's got to be done at the federal level. We're a nation of laws. I'd like to support everybody that's here. I think that people who are here should have a path to be able to stay here. And we have to do things practically, and Congress and the White House are going to hear from that from me every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis. All right, since I've pre-drawn a question that is to Mr. Kipnis, will you end sanctuary? Well, never mind. We just answered. Okay, thank you. It referred to the sanctuary state once again. So we will get another question. Okay, now this is question to Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, in the event that Phil Murphy is elected governor, will you vote to stop any of his exorbitant plans that will cause taxes to rise?
Well,
Sir.
Let's talk about taxes in general, and Murphy in particular. I believe that our property taxes in New Jersey are way, way, way too high. And I have actually specific plans to stabilize and moderate those property taxes involving education reform. But with respect to any governor, whether it's Governor Murphy or Governor Gridano or Governor Christie or any of the ones in the past, I do not easily vote for anything that will increase the tax rate on New Jersey citizens. And that being said, I have voted in the last two sessions for what was called a millionaire's tax. And I voted for the millionaire's tax because the state of New Jersey is totally financially in the tank. And we need to find a way, at least on a temporary basis, to get us out of there. So if it's truly a millionaire's tax, I could be talking to you.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Kipnis.
Yes, New Jersey, people in New Jersey are the most taxed people in the country. My opponent to my left right here voted for the gas tax increase last year, which is a regressive tax that hurts the poorest and most vulnerable people in New Jersey the most. And even members of the middle class that are trying to raise children here, paycheck to paycheck. Every penny counts, every dollar counts. I have comprehensive plans to reform property taxes. I posted them all on my Facebook page in terms of fair school funding, shared services reforms, and things of that nature. And there's a lot of talk right now about Amazon coming to New Jersey and how the state wants to give a plan for a $7 billion tax break. If you look at my page, you'll see there's a link to find out if that tax subsidy, instead of being given to a giant corporation, was given to property tax payers instead. You can see you get quite a bit of reduction in your property taxes. So we have to change the way the state thinks We have to move away towards crony capitalism. We have to move away towards what doesn't work and move towards what does work.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis. Okay, there don't seem to be any rebuttals, so we will go on to the next question, which is addressed to Senator Smith. During the primary, oh my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. I have no idea what this says. I feel like Vanna White. Okay, Senator Smith, what is your legislative achievement, your greatest legislative achievement?
All right, well, I would suggest that there were many things that I have done and legislated that have improved the lives of the people of New Jersey. But if I have any input on my tombstone, what I'd like to see on that tombstone is that he worked to provide a stable source of funding for open space preservation, farmland preservation, and historic preservation. 3 years ago, the constitutional amendment that I proposed that dedicated 4% of the corporate business tax toward those purposes was passed 2-to-1 in the state of New Jersey. Last year, this governor, who has not been a great friend of open space, did his best to not appropriate that monies, and our legislature got to the point where he was about to be overridden for the first time. So I think my best achievement is open space preservation, stable source of funding, and secondly, the Highlands Preservation Act, which preserves the water of more than 5 million
We're a
people.
little over our time allotment. Thank you. Is there a rebuttal, Mr. Kipnis?
Yes, Senator Smith spoke a lot about things that happen in other parts of New Jersey. But I'm focused on the 17th district, and when you look around, especially when you drive around Piscataway, it seems that no tree is safe from the bulldozers of all the developers, which are paving, every lot and putting up whatever they please, and are receiving tax abatements in the process. No one cares more about the environment than me, but we have to focus locally too. People need open space right here.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis. Okay, may I remind you, if I haven't already, please turn off all of your cell phones. Thank you. Okay, now this question is also directed to Mr. Kipnis. What is your background, and why does your background make you the better legislator?
Well, I'm a husband of 11 years. I'm a father of 3 kids, 8, 6, and 2. I am an experienced trial attorney. I graduated from Seton Hall Law School in 2005. And I understand the difficulties of raising a family in the Garden State. I'm with it. I understand that people are having great financial difficulties right now. People are living paycheck to paycheck. Every tax increase is less money for families to put food on the table for their children. And 18,000 people are picking up and leaving New Jersey on average every month because it's unaffordable to live here. So we need to change the paradigm of the state legislature to have people in there that are connected with what's going on in the community, that understand the struggles of families. And if a tax increase comes through, we're going to look at it very carefully, and I will stand for the taxpayer. I will stand for the resident. I will try to keep as much money in people's pockets as possible because I believe they're the best judge of where it should go. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you for keeping within the time frame.
So my background, answer to the question.
And yes, the rebuttal, of course.
Thank you very much. I have served the people of Piscataway in the legislative district for many years, and I have a list of legislative achievements. I'm not starting with a learning curve. I know how to get things done. I have a list of things like the Highlands Act, Open Space Preservation, Electronic Management Act, Recycling Enhancement Act, just a pile of very good things for the state. My background includes
I think we have time called, Senator Smith. Time's called.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I add one more thing?
There are no rebuttals to rebuttals.
Okay, no
I'm sorry,
problem.
we did agree to that.
No problem.
Okay. All right, and the next question happens to be addressed to Mr. Kipnis. This is going very nicely. Okay, what needs to be done to protect New Jersey's water supply?
Well, what we need to do is stop things like the Transco pipeline, which is going right in Franklin, and the gas compressor station. That's going to have massive impact on the quality of water, and it doesn't really serve any benefit to people in New Jersey. It serves other parts of the country, and there's quite a lot of risk involved, and we need to be very careful about anything that we allow to happen I understand that the federal government regulates that. I intervened and shared information on how others to do that. I attended many other meetings to get people out in Middlesex and Somerset County Freehold boards to advocate for stopping the pipeline. And we have to be careful about the footprint on our environment. We have to be very careful about regulations on things such as waste removal and things of that nature. Every action, the consequences on not the next election cycle, but the next generation will be considered. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have some significant water issues in this state. One of them, in terms of supply, I think I've made a major contribution, and that is preserving 700,000 acres in the Highlands, which is the source of the water for 5.5 million people. But we have some really, really serious problems, like lead in our pipes. We have school systems all over the state that have lead that may be contaminating our children. And we have a US EPA that is no longer functional.
Okay, time has been called. Thank you, Senator, for keeping within the time frame. Okay, our next question addressed to Mr. Kipnis. Why are you running for the state senate?
Why am I running for the state senate? Because I believe people deserve to be represented by one of their own rather than a career politician. I think we need a generational shift in our state government. One statistic, I'm 37 years old, and one of the big statistics that everyone sees is that 47% of New Jerseyans aged 18 to 34, if they're living in the state, are living at home with their parents. Many of whom, because even the ones that are employed, because they're unable to afford their own places to live. And they're raising children here, many of them. And I think that people in that generation need a voice that represents everyone, seniors, young people, everyone equally, and stop treating people like piggy banks, start treating them like family. I think people deserve that from their legislator, and that's why I'm running for the state senate.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis. Senator Smith.
For the short answer is that I think I have a lot of very important legislation ahead in the next term. And if you look at the record, we passed around resumes, you can see all the things we've done for seniors and young people. But in the next term, I'm hoping to promote electronic vehicles. I think that's a large part of solving our climate crisis. I want to work on a food waste package so that we help food insecure people and take food waste out of landfills. And then finally, the last frontier is stormwater utilities. That's the last water pollution problem.
Thank you, Senator. All right, and the next question. Directed to Senator Smith, how do you explain the lack of a yes vote on the ban of the sale of supplemental, I'm not quite sure what this is. Infant, I'm not quite sure what this is. Okay, next. Ask you to print. Okay, again, Senator Smith, what is New Jersey's biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge ahead is the finances. I mean, truthfully, we have mountains of debt, mountains of pension obligations, and we really need to turn this state around. We've had 8 years where we've had 11 credit downgrades under the current government, which is one of the major reasons why I'm supporting Murphy. I think he has the business background to help our state get back on track with bringing good, clean, and high-tech industries in the state, generating jobs, and that's the way in which you start to deal with the financial problem. You need to have this kind of activity in New Jersey, hopefully leveraged and partnered with our state universities, which are an underutilized treasure in the state, and that will generate more revenue so that we can hopefully meet our financial obligations better and help solve a lot of the pension obligations that we have as well.
Thank you, Senator.
The problem is the state's finances and its affordability. People can't afford to live in the state. And the problems didn't just happen 8 years ago. They happened a lot longer ago than that. And my opponent's been in the state Senate since 2001. He was in the state assembly. He got sworn in 1986. And my view is that those who created the problem cannot be expected to fix it. The gas tax, when that was raised last year, they asked us to pay for their mismanagement, and we need change.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis.
Welcome.
Okay, again, addressed to Mr. Kipnis. What is your view on New Jersey becoming a sanctuary state? I think we did cover this already. We did not cover this already? Okay. What is your view on New Jersey becoming a sanctuary state? We did, that's what I
First question.
Okay. He talked about DACA. Okay, are we in agreement that this is a legitimate question he may answer? If not, then we move on. Okay, we're going to move on. Okay, Senator Smith, what is your solution to lower property taxes, being that New Jersey is the highest property taxes in the nation?
Okay, you're here. You don't have to keep the secret. In New Jersey, we have 600 school districts. We have designed the most economically inefficient educational delivery system in America. There is no reason to have 600 districts. There are now 16 states in the United States of America that do county-based delivery of educational services. And when you look at their costs of educating a child, and these are good states with good education like Maryland, they can deliver the product at a lower cost. We need that county delivery. We don't need all the superintendents for every district. We don't need lawyers for every district. We don't need purchasing departments for every district. We need to have a more efficient system that serves our kids better.
I'm glad my opponent brought that up, and I wish to remind everybody that he's been in the state legislature for over 30 years. This is not new. This has been going on for a long time, with superintendents being paid what they are, and with the way that the school funding formula is set up since the Abbott decision. Why are we first hearing about doing something about it now? There were years to do something about it. We do need to do something about it now. But he hasn't done anything about it in all the time that he's been there. So I think we need somebody new that will act quickly.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kipnis. And addressed again to Mr. Kipnis, did you vote for Donald Trump, and would you vote for him again?
I did. Would I vote for him again? Support of anybody, any politician, any elected official, is something that is not to be given blindly. It's something to be earned. It's something to be lost. I like his Made in America Jobs program. I like the apprenticeship program. I share many of the same concerns about him and his administration as pretty much everybody does. But one of the things that I think I'll be able to do is be able to be an advocate for everyone in the district. If they have concerns with the Trump administration and with Congress, I'd like to cultivate a working relationship with everybody in Washington, D.C., because if there ever comes a time when we need the federal government's help, I want to make sure that the people in the 17th district get it. And if the people in the 17th district have concerns with certain things that the federal government does, I want to make sure that they're voiced.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis.
So I did not vote for Donald Trump. And I worked in this town, I worked in Piscataway Township to get a 10,000 vote plurality for Hillary Clinton because she was the right choice for president. This president that we have here drives us all crazy. He's doing his best to hurt New Jersey. For example, in the federal budget, the deduction for home interest on mortgage interest and taxes, that's outrageous. It kills the Northeast and New Jersey in particular.
Thank you, Senator. I think we'll take a little kitty breather. Can the child sit down, please? Thank you.
My wife's the best. What can I say?
Okay. Thank you. All right. Another question for Mr. Kipnis.
Yes.
Chris Christie is leaving office with an approval rating that is very, very low and appears to be spending his last days as governor of sports. What is your opinion of this?
This election is not about what's come before, it's about the future. And Governor Christie has done a lot of things which I am not happy about. He signed the gas tax. He was behind the Horizon bill, which my opponent voted for, which caused him to have his famous day on the beach that we all know about. And my opponent's assembly running mates withheld their votes on the budget on June 30th to shut down the state government in order to push the governor's agenda of what he was looking to get out of it. And his ally Steve Sweeney. And also when it was time to reopen the state government and vote on the budget, my opponent was absent. And when it was time to compensate state workers for their pay that they had lost pay from the result of the shutdown, my opponent did not participate in that vote. New Jersey needs to move forward. It's about a new direction. It's about having people that are not career politicians, that have not been picked by the establishment. No one came to me with a truckload of $100,000 to fund my campaign and say, be our guy in Trent. I came forward because I want to be your guy in Trent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
It's
Kipnis.
important for people to understand what happened last June. Our state's shut down, but you know why it shut down? And it's the unknown story. It's about school aid. The conflict between the governor and Senate President Sweeney was adjusting the aid to meet the core design funding formula. And as a result of that, as a result of having the fund, school aid for Piscataway Township, North Brunswick, New Brunswick, and other towns that have children with extra needs went up.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is also addressed to Senator Smith. I can't wait for him to vote. Why does New Jersey, oh my goodness, everybody's asking the same question about taxes.
By the way, you were afraid you were only going to have 13 questions?
Yeah, I know, but you know we're getting close. I may have to ask a few. That's not in the format. Okay, Senator Smith, what is your position on educational funding?
I believe that Governor Corzine, after a great deal of hard work and by a one-vote margin, passed a funding formula for school funding that the New Jersey State Supreme Court said met the requirements of the Abbott versus Merck decision, and that they would hold it constitutional. And what that funding formula was based on was not on zip codes, it was based on the needs of the children in the district. So if you had more children who had school breakfast or school lunch program, or needed the pre-K services, if they had children that had problems, they received greater funding. And the Supreme Court said that's constitutional. Unfortunately, this government has ignored it until this last budget when he was forced to do it.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Kipnis.
Yes, we need to take a look at the way school funding is done. There's a lot that's been done in the past which kind of sets the paradigm of how it goes. We do need to look at places like Hoboken, whether they should still be considered an Abbott district, where the $1.5 million condo pays more in property taxes than, say, a $300,000 home in other parts of the state or even in the district. So we have to take a look at the school funding formula, and we have to move forward with things that haven't been working so well to make them work better for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis. Next. I just wanted to take 2 minutes to acknowledge our timekeeper for this evening, Mr. John Felix. Thank you very much. This question for Senator Smith. What do you propose to do to help the less fortunate New Jersey citizens?
Well, I think number one, the school funding formula. I think we have to continue to make progress on it. Number two, the last 8 years, this governor has vetoed or cut out of budgets funding for Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood provides essential services, especially for young women who may not have the resources to get additional services. Women's health is what I'm talking about. And I think that's a way in which we can provide those services to a relatively needy population. I also mentioned to you that one of my goals for the next term, if I'm lucky enough to be reelected, is a food waste program, where we're going to find ways to help food-challenged people, because we now throw away almost half of the food that we bring into our home. We need ways to have sharing tables so that food that is still viable can be distributed to people who need it. We need a way for restaurants to do more for needy people. Food is a
We have
resource
reached
that
our
shouldn't
time.
be wasted.
Senator, thank you. Thank you. Okay, another question. Yes, I'm sorry, you need a
Yes.
rebuttal to that. I'm sorry.
Restoring funding for women's health is very important. We have to look at the quality of opportunities. I attended a recent summit at First Baptist Church in Franklin, where we talked about affordability. We had all kinds of accountants and economic experts, professors that came and spoke about it. We have a lack of jobs in the middle scale area that don't pay a good enough wage. I think we do have to look at wage reform, but we have to do it in a way that allows businesses to remain competitive. We just got to increase opportunity and help those that need it most.
Great, thank you very much. This question addressed to Senator Smith. Very broad question. Why are you running for the state senate?
Well, I thought we answered it before, but I'll be happy to do a redo, and that is.
It always bears repeating.
Well, I feel that I can make a continuing contribution to a better New Jersey. We've done some major things with open space, electronic waste, recycling, etc. But we need to go forward with a food waste program where we reduce the amount of food waste in New Jersey at least by 50% by the year 2030. We need to put charging stations around the state so that people can buy and use electronic vehicles, which will help us with climate change. And right now they don't do it because they have charging anxiety. They're afraid that if they go 35 miles from home, they won't be able to get back. So you need to invest in the charging infrastructure and also give people an incentive to buy electronic vehicles. And then the last one, which is the sleeper, the stormwater utilities, which requires a long explanation.
Okay, thank you, sir. And Mr. Kipnis, why are you running for state senate?
Well, I said it before. You want me to say it again? I'll say it again. New Jersey's not affordable to live in. People need to be represented by one of their own. Same career politicians essentially have put New Jersey in the position that it's in. It isn't just the past 8 years, it's the past 16 years, it's the past 20 years, it's the past 30 years. I understand as someone raising a family how difficult it is and difficulties that others have that are trying to raise families. We need to keep families together.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kipnis. We did have a few last minute questions that I just inserted into this box and I'm mixing them up. Let's see what we have. Okay, this is addressed to Senator Smith. The first part of this question deals with the sanctuary state, which I do believe has been addressed. The second part says that if Mr. Murphy is elected, will you support protecting illegal aliens from being, I can't read the rest of it, from being deported, I do believe that says, from being deported by ISE or federal immigration authorities. What is your position on that?
I've already indicated that I will support Governor Murphy's initiative and that it should be statewide so that we don't have 567 different approaches to the problem.
Okay. I think we have to take a look at the law. We have to follow the law. And if we don't like the law, we got to fight like hell to change that law. And that's what we got to do to get Congress on the phone and to get them working, that we have a lot of people here that love living in America, that love being here. What's the plan for them? And they got to act swiftly, and they're going to hear how persistent I am. They're going to find out real fast that when people in this district care about something, I'm behind them 100%, and I'm not going away.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis. Okay, addressed to Senator Smith. You sent a flyer today that said you oppose a $32 million high school stadium, I'm sorry. Are you aware the Board of Education voted against it?
Well, I would first say that it's absolutely nothing to do with the Senate debate.
It has absolutely nothing to do with the Senate debate.
But-
If you choose to not answer the question, that I understand.
No. Listen, I would like a chance to make a response to that. We currently have members of our Board of Education who have no common sense. And they put forward a capital program, namely a replacement high school football stadium that the voters of Piscataway Township absolutely hate. The ballot in November has school board choices. If you want a return of common sense to the Piscataway Board of Ed, vote for Mr. Mosier, Mr. Akamoto, and Mr. Oates, 1, 2, and 6. We need some common sense on the board, not these wasteful spenders.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Daryl, you do get a rebuttal. Go ahead.
I disagree with Senator Smith's assessment, and I'd like to point out to everybody that when Governor Christie decided that he wanted to spend $300 million, or really $750 million when debt servicing is factored into your money, to renovate the State House, and my opponent sits on the State House Commission, Senator Ray Lesniak filed a lawsuit, as well as Assemblyman John Wisniewski, to stop this scheme, which I believe is unconstitutional and violates the Lance Amendment, which requires a public referendum. So he's talking about a football stadium, I'm talking about $300 million for the State House. That's where we need to put our focus.
Inaccurate.
We're not rebutting, but
I
thank
know,
you.
that's why
Thank you.
I have
Okay,
one word
I agree.
response. It's not truthful.
All right, time has been called. This is for Mr. Kipnis. Your thoughts on the correlation between term limits and political corruption?
I think we need term limits in New Jersey. I think New Jersey is a case study of why we need term limits. It's got to happen. The founding fathers envisioned public service positions, elected office, not to be a career, but for an opportunity for members of the community to come in, serve other members of the community for a finite period of time, and then go back to the community, go back to being farmers, go back to being blacksmiths, go back to being doctors, lawyers, whatever. And I think we need to eliminate sort of the political elite class in New Jersey. And term limits are I support term limits for every elected position in New Jersey. I think we absolutely need it. I think that will get us more in line with what our founders intended.
Thank you.
And
Senator.
of course, my response is that I am term limited. Every 2 or 4 years, I have 90,000 voters in the 17th legislative district who make a decision whether the service that I provide to them is effective, doing good things for them and for the state, and they have, over the last number of years, supported my reelection. If they don't want to, they can vote for the alternative.
Okay. Next question. For both candidates, of course, and we just covered this, there are a lot of duplicates. This refers also to term limits. Okay. For Mr. Kipnis, if you are elected, what are your 3 legislative priorities?
Making New Jersey affordable to live in. We have to address the high cost of living in New Jersey. Property taxes are the big one. We're going to certainly have to do something about that and look at that very quickly. Job opportunities, particularly for young people. And we have to look at the tax code. And the way that things go now, everyone's talking about the $7 billion subsidy that they want to give Amazon. If we're in a position where we have to offer a $7 billion break to one company to come to New Jersey, I think that's an admission that the entire code is broken, and the playing field needs to be leveled to create available opportunities and competition for businesses of all sizes to work, to thrive, to employ people, to make New Jersey the best place in the country to live, to work, and to retire. The third priority is education. We have to work with our teachers, we have to work with our administrators and parents, every stakeholder in the system to ensure that we're the best place in the country to learn.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis.
So, I assume it's 1 minute on both, since we both asked the question. So, I mentioned to you the 3 micro priorities, namely supporting EVs, electronic vehicles, food waste reform and helping distressed food challenged people, and also stormwater utilities. But big picture stuff, one of the things that I think was most wasteful about the Christie administration was they had a program called, it's called the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, where they were paying companies to move 2 blocks up the street. That's awful. We should be inviting the highest tech, the best companies in the world to come here, if you're going to give them an incentive. But it was more money given to Christie's friends. And again, a big picture item, I think the educational system has to be reformed. There is no way in the world that we should have 600 school districts.
Okay. Believe it or not, I think there are only a couple of questions left. We're really ahead of schedule. Okay, for Mr. Kipnis, how will you help special needs families?
Yes, I actually represent families in obtaining IEPs and 504 plans through the schools. And you know, the hoops that they have to jump through when they have a child with autism or on the spectrum or something of that nature is very difficult. It's very onerous. I want to look at those procedures to eliminate some of those hoops that families have to jump through. You know, I hate to talk about getting lawyers involved, but they shouldn't have to get lawyers involved all the time. It should be a simple dialogue between the school administration and child study teams, so that there should not have to be a battle. It should not have to be a fight for any child with autism or any special need to get the services that they need. And I will certainly look at legislation to make that a lot easier, to eliminate the unnecessary stress of that, and to make sure that there is enough funding to serve the needs of children as best as we possibly can.
Thank you,
I
sir.
agree with Mr. Kipnis. I think he's correct. I think we make it too hard for special needs children and their families. We can do better.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Now, we are down to our final question. And this is a question that is very near to my heart, so I will take it upon myself to have both of you answer this question. It is concerning animal rights. How will you tell this audience about how to protect pets, animals, and animal rights within New Jersey? We'll start with you, Mr. Kipnis.
Yes, I have two particular plans. One of the plans that I support is Dr. John Robb, who's a well-known veterinarian. I was on his show recently talking about the Protect the Pets initiative, which is to eliminate the 3-year revaccination requirement for dogs to get rabies shot every 3 years. If they get a titer, which shows immunity, they should be able to be exempted from having to get the revaccination all the time, because excessive vaccination can harm the animal. The other thing, we've heard about Tonka's law that was proposed by Senator Lesniak. I support that. And also, in New Jersey, if your animal was the victim of animal abuse, if you were to sue the abuser in court and try to recover damages, animals are treated like a chair or like a pencil or a car. They're treated like property. They're not treated like there's no value ascribed to them for pain and suffering. So I want to amend the law to allow for some recovery of non-economic damages in the event of animal abuse, and for punitive damages and attorney's fees, so animal abuse cases get brought to court.
Thank you, sir. Senator, your comments.
Well, two sets of comments. One is that there is currently a pretty big controversy about the role of the SPCA, the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And there is an SCI report saying that they are not handling their duties properly. If they're not handling their duties properly and protecting animals, then changes is necessary. And then secondly, while I always believe that we should try to inform people so they properly protect their animals and take good care of them and allow for adoptions of animals, we also have some problems. And the two biggest problems, animal problems we have in the state, are Canadian geese and the population of deer that is out of control. If you take a look, even if you drive around Piscataway Township, my wife had her car totaled with a deer that ran in front of it, but it's not just personal to me. People all over the state. We also have to deal with those problems where animals are nuisances. That's not in sync with the answer that everybody wants, but it's a real problem.
Okay. Well, we are ahead of schedule. What I would like to propose right now is that the winner of the coin toss, which was Senator Smith, you can decide to ask Mr. Kipnis a question first, or you can defer that to him to ask you first, your choice.
I'll defer.
Mr. Kipnis.
Yes. Senator Smith, you're aware of the State Commission of Investigation's Dirty Dirt, which came out and indicated that there was corrupt practices in the recycling industry. Years ago, the state regulated the solid waste industry to prevent certain criminal elements from taking advantage of the system. And in the report that came out, that there was a facility down in South Jersey where people were taking carcinogenic construction waste, where it was brought down there. It was operated, this particular one, by a convicted felon from Florida, where it was mixed in with soil and repackaged for resale. And I did some research and discovered that one of the parties that was found by the State Commission of Investigation to have done it was a campaign donor to Mayor Cahill in the New Brunswick Democratic Organization. Why has there been no action by the state legislature until that report came out to regulate the criminal element out of the recycling industry?
Well, I think you have a
Excuse me, I would like to amend the format slightly. I think it would be grossly unfair to not have a rebuttal to that statement, so I will offer that to you, Senator Smith.
Okay, so number one, we are doing something. The bill to correct the problem is out of my committee, the Ray Lesniak bill. And the problem associated with the bill is the disclosure, the required disclosure statements for anybody going into the industry. The bill is originally proposed to have every Boy Scout troop or Girl Scout troop who may have recycled anything to go through what's called the A901 program, which would be crazy. The bill came out of the committee in the spring. And what it's done is to focus on what are called the dirt programs. Because what they're doing is taking dirt that has contamination and bringing it to construction sites and saying it's clean. And that's how we get dirty soil in some of our major developments. The bill that we have out of committee, I think, is going to pass in the lame duck. Senator Lesniak's bill, and I think it will help to correct the problem.
Thank you, Senator. Now it is your turn to ask Mr. Kipnis a question, and in deference to the slight alteration of the procedure, Mr. Kipnis will have a 30-second rebuttal as well.
Sure. I'll pass.
You're going to pass the question?
Yes,
Okay. Well then, we have time now for a 2-minute closing for each candidate. Again, your choice as the coin toss winner if you would like to begin or defer to Mr. Kipnis.
I'll go first, only so that Daryl can respond. I made a statement earlier that I voted for the $300 million renovation of the State House. Incorrect, inaccurate, and absolutely no relationship to reality. The State House renovation did not pass through the State House Commission, of which I'm a member, and had it come to my committee, I would have voted against it, because I don't think there was a proper vetting before the public to see whether or not there was public support for it or not. So putting that statement out there is an example of a lack of knowledge. All right, we're not. I see my role as being protective of the taxpayer and citizens of the state, and I'm not going to allow money to be spent improperly. Now that being said, that was the biggest correction I'd like to make. There are others, but let's leave it at that. I'm hoping that I can get your support for a 4-year term. And I'm asking for that support not because I want to sit in the seat. I'm asking for that support because there is a positive program for you and for the people of New Jersey that I want to enact. And I'm hopeful under a Democratic governor, Governor Murphy, bills that the last guy vetoed and prevented from happening, I will get passed. And the new programs that will make our environment cleaner and greener and hopefully safer and more economically secure, I can get passed. That's why I ask for your support. Please consider me for your vote.
Thank you, Senator Smith. And Mr. Kipnis, your closing statement.
It seems to be a little bit of a misunderstanding here. I didn't ask whether Senator Smith voted for the State House renovation, because there was no vote by the legislature on the State House renovation. It was done by the Christie administration. I asked why he did not join with Senator Lesniak and Assemblyman Wisniewski to file a lawsuit to stop the bonding from happening. I didn't ask whether he voted on it. No one voted on it. It was done behind the taxpayer's back, and it was done in a way which circumvents the state constitution. So that was my question. If he misunderstood it, what can I say? But why am I running here for the state senate, and why I'm asking you for your support and your vote? No one's entitled to anyone's support or vote. I want to earn your vote. As a father of 3 kids, a small business owner, an attorney at law, and someone who's very concerned about the future of the state of New Jersey, not just for the next election cycle, but for the next generation. I really believe that career politicians in Trenton have failed us. I really believe that it's time for change. I really believe that it's time for the people to be represented by one of their own. We have to make our state affordable to live in. If no one can afford to live here, nobody can enjoy all that New Jersey has to offer. We have to do a better job educating our young people. We have to do a better job for our seniors who pay $10,000 property tax bills in 55 and older communities. They move to those places so that they can be near their children, be near their grandchildren, and pay less property taxes if they carry a house. And they paid their mortgage off. They worked very hard for that. And there was the prospect of losing their home because property tax is the most unfair tax there is. It doesn't take into account your ability to pay, particularly if you're on fixed income. I believe I will work much harder than Senator Smith ever could to get tax relief, particularly property tax relief. I'll be responsive to everyone's requests. Like I said, nobody drove a truckload of money to me and said, here's your campaign fund. I came forward myself because I'm running to be everybody's guy in Trenton. I don't represent any special interest. There is no interest more special to me than you and your family. And I'm running because legislators should treat constituents like family and not piggy banks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kipnis. Well, this concludes our evening's debate for the Legislative District number 17. I want to
Thank you to our moderator.
Thank
well,
you.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Again, I want to say thank you to Senator Smith for agreeing to the challenge offered by Mr. Kipnis. And I I would also like to thank the officials for Piscataway High School for allowing us to use their facility. Again, thank you to John Felix for keeping time for everyone tonight, without whose guidance I would be standing here checking my iPad and hoping it was accurate. And lastly, thanking all of you who did show your interest in the future and the political climate that we are all within the state of New Jersey. I wish you happy election day. Vote with your heart, vote with your minds, and thank you both of these candidates for representing our community. Thank you. Good night.
Hang on, folks, before you go home.
And also, let us not forget Damon Montesano, who organized the rest of this.